Hello friends, this is Carrie and welcome back to I Like Reddit channel. I hope you all are staying safe and healthy. Today I decided to switch it up a bit and read from another subreddit. So today we have 4 stories out of the entitled People subreddit. Let's begin. Our first post is by TG Notat Cerner. Yes, you bought the house, but we can stay in it, right? So not my story, but my brother's. TLDR at the bottom. My brother and his wife were moving from one state to another. One of those states was Texas. So it was not a one-day move, if that makes sense. They had gone house hunting, found a place, one that needed a little TLC, updating since the owners were over 70, but since they were both great DIYers, it was worth it for them to buy it cheap and improve it. They drive and get to the hotel in town the night before closing, late, with a U-Haul full of their stuff. They arranged with U-Haul to have people there to unload it at noon the next day after closing. This is important. The next morning, they go and do the walkthrough before closing, and the house is not packed up, as it looks like people are still living there. The realtor drops the current owner might not be ready to give up possession at closing. For brother, this is a no-go. They didn't have the hotel for another night, and they had already arranged and paid people to help unload. So no, contractually, the current owner needs to be out. They go to closing, and the realtor for the current owner said that the current owner needs to stay in the house again overnight. Again, from my brother, no, it's not arranged in the contract, and we only have a hotel for one night, and I have the unloads scheduled. The CEO, current owner, realtor, well, in my day, we just had the stuff sorted out. It didn't need to be in a contract. Brother, okay, when were you going to tell us? At this point, it's too late. We made plans based on taking possession today. So unless the client will pay to reschedule the unloaders, pay for another night at a hotel, and with a pet deposit since we have our 2 dogs, this won't work. This is why it's contracted, so that I can do things like not drive down here until the house is move-in ready. Come to find out that current owner realtor is no longer practicing, as in retired, but came out of retirement to do this for current owner. So closing proceeds and my brother and wife go to what would be their house. Current owner and all of their children's spouses are there, just hanging out, not packing, not getting things out, just chilling. Brother, so can I help you with anything? Crew, nah, we're good. Resume chatting. Repeat this every 15 minutes for about an hour and a half, including my brother adding that he has people coming at noon to help unload. At 11, they tell my brother they're ordering a pizza. Does he want some? Brother, no, I don't want pizza. I am celiac. I can't eat pizza. However, I do need you to get your things out so I can move into my house. The pizza arrives and they continue to offer him some. At 11:30, he finally loses it. Brother, no, I don't want pizza. I need your U-Haul out of the driveway in half an hour because I will be moving my U-Haul into my driveway to unload my things into my house. They finally caught the clue. Cue chickens running with their heads cut off for the next half hour, during which my sister-in-law brings the dogs in. Wife of the formerly current, now previous owner, you can't bring those dogs in here, I'm allergic. Sister-in-law, yes, I can bring my dogs into my house. You had no problem getting gluten-filled pizza all over my house when I told you that it would make my husband very sick. Wife, well, what about the floors? Sister-in-law, yes, what about my floors? This is our house now. You need to leave. They finally got their stuff and left, but I figured this was a perfect example of very entitled people. Too long, didn't read. Older couple sells their house to my brother and sister-in-law and basically refuses to vacate after the sale closes and my brother-in-law takes possession and has the nerve to complain about my brother's dogs. Our next story is by DeFoxtrot86. Babysitter was convinced there was something wrong with me and took me to the hospital without notifying my mother. This happened when I was about 4 years old or so, and I sadly don't remember it personally, but my mother told the story so many times in rants when I was a kid. Here's what I remember. For context, I have high-functioning autism. So as a child, I was, how we say, quirky. At the time, my mom was not only working a minimum wage job, but she was also putting herself through college, so she frequently needed a babysitter for me and my older sister. One day, she had hired a new one, and I was left with, let's call her Brittany. Brittany was a young and attractive girl around 18 to 20 years old, and she seemed very nice to my mom. But after babysitting me for just a few hours, she was convinced there was something seriously wrong with me. So she put me in her car and took me to the hospital without notifying anyone. My sister was at school, so there was no one else in the house. While at the hospital, I don't know if Brittany pretended to be my mother or a concerned relative or something, but she managed to convince the doctors and nurses that she was right in thinking that I was in serious need of some sort of immediate mental help. Finally, my mom was notified while she was at work. This was about 1990, before most people had cell phones. She got a call on the company landline because one of the smart doctors there realized that Brittany was not related to me or even knew much about me, for that matter, and they made her reluctantly cough up my mom's contact info. To say that my mom was furious was an understatement. The ground shook as she stormed into the hospital and demanded to know where I was. When she got to the room that they were keeping me in, I had wires and electrodes hooked up all over my head. She said I looked like something out of a horror movie. She immediately told them to cease whatever they were doing. She then fired Brittany on the spot despite her crazy protests in calling my mother a bad mom. The doctors determined that Brittany was too full of hot air after examining me, and she was also left on the hook for the bill from the hospital. After that, my mom started having my great-grandparents babysit me instead, and we moved in with them not long after. Edit, I honestly didn't expect this story to have blown up in the way it has. I know the story sounds fake to many people, and that my referring to the babysitter as Brittany wasn't a good idea, and this might not have been the right sub to post the story in, but I had no idea where else to post it. But this did happen, and honestly I wish it didn't because it actually traumatized my mother a bit. She couldn't get the image of what happened out of her head for years. I had to comfort her many times as a child when the story was brought up. She blamed herself for leaving me with that person. And while this was before cell phones were common, my mom was easily reached by landline at work. Brittany had access to a phone in the house that we lived in at that time, and my mom was easily reached at work. The doctors had no problem getting a hold of her once they actually had the name and number. The doctors also had to apologize profusely to my mother for believing Brittany because they had doubts after initially checking me out, but she had lied to them and was adamant that there was something seriously wrong with me. I was fully capable of speech at the time and diagnosed with autism in 1990, and diagnoses of autism in 1990 weren't readily handed out as they were just a few years later. I wasn't diagnosed with Asperger's until I was 12 or 13, and before that doctors just gave me a small examination and decided to pump me full of Ritalin at the time. I was 6 or 7 until I was 15. I didn't get any real mental improvement until I was fully off the medication, as it left me depressed and unable to focus on more than one thing at a time. And yes, it does seem a bit over the top that Brittany was stuck with the bill, but I think for her it was better than being arrested. Plus, people in this situation can often be billed for wasting the time of the police or the doctors. So in the end, believe what you want, but this did happen. If you're enjoying the content so far, please put a heart emoji in the comments section down below. Our next post is by Cheesy Peta 1994. Entitled Ex-Friend is upset at me for getting a job in our field. Dave, male 35, and I, 25 female, met in advanced math class at community college 3 years ago. I had finished my bachelor's and needed to take a couple of extra classes to prep for my master's program in CS. Dave, as he came to share, had spent 18 to 28 playing video games in his childhood bedroom, and 29 to 35 he had an awakening and decided to start doing something with his life. He planned on getting his bachelor's in CS, but he had somehow managed to spend 6+ years taking part-time classes at community college. The guy was 35, had never had a job outside of one summer stocking at a grocery store a decade ago, never paid rent in his life either. When we met in that math class, despite his past, I was impressed with Dave for trying to turn his life around. This guy was smart, but over time I started seeing another side of him. Dave constantly complained about his parents, the same parents who paid for every expense, including a reloadable Starbucks card, an annual Disneyland membership, the latter of which he used 2 to 3 times a week. Anytime I offered to help Dave get a good starting job in IT or CS, he'd laugh and say, "I couldn't possibly work, even part-time, with my academic schedule," or $30 an hour? Psh, I'll be making 3 times that when I finish my degree. What makes him think that? His 3 months of a job market experience from 2005? At the same time, he always went around saying that he knew more than his professors did, and that he should teach the classes, etc. He'd tell everyone he's a computer scientist and a true academic. Well, this summer I got an internship/turn job, major tech and entertainment company. I'm on track to finish my master's next year. The sad thing is, my friendship with Dave was over within 2 months of me getting the internship. He started calling me a sellout and saying things like, working students didn't actually care about understanding computer science. They just lied and cheated to get through classes. Random BS like that. When I told him that wasn't true and that lots of students work, his response was to ignore me for a week and write a 4-page letter saying I didn't understand how hard he had it. The entitlement is mind-blowing for a near middle-aged man who never had supported himself to tell someone who had worked their way through most of college in retail and as a maid, who now works full-time to mentor kids in STEM while finishing a second degree, that she doesn't appreciate how hard he has it. Mind blown. I hope he's still having a good time spending 40 hours a week studying and being a computer scientist at Starbucks. TLDR. My 35-year-old friend had never worked or paid rent in his life, but thinks he's better than working students and a true academic. Our final story today is posted by Miss Finch 87. Entitled Wedding Guest. I'm so frustrated with my sister-in-law's behavior regarding my wedding that I ended up reading a whole collection of posts on entitled Wedding Guests and realized that she fits right in with those. My partner and I decided to ask my niece to be a junior bridesmaid, so to avoid problems of family politics. The first sign of drama was with her mother, my sister-in-law, suggesting that I should make her my junior maid of honor because she had a special relationship with me, more so apparently than the other junior bridesmaids. This was news to me, and what the heck is even that? Then I was asked to give her a job. To do so, she felt important. I wasn't keen on this because of the added complexity, but nevertheless figured something out to avoid problems. A couple of months down the track, when nothing had been done, I queried it and was told that she was completely overwhelmed and suffering from extreme anxiety, and the burden that I had placed on her was unfair. The job, choosing from a selection of 3 different earrings for the junior bridesmaids, whom I had confirmed with her mother, was appropriate before asking. I apologized with a lot of eye rolling and withdrew the job. I was accused of not making her feel important enough. I was then asked by my sister-in-law if I could arrange to have robes for the bridesmaids because her daughter wanted them, and it was specified to me with slogans that should be on them. I was livid and refused, but was told that sister-in-law would buy one and only one for her daughter if I wouldn't do it. So I went out and organized robes, so I wasn't faced with a situation of 2 of the other little girls sobbing because they had missed out and that brat was prancing around rubbing their noses in it. And also, so I didn't end up with tacky slogans designed by an 11-year-old. Then when we got the food, his niece wanted McDonald's at the reception. I explained that this would not be possible. The restaurant would not allow external food to be brought in, and frankly, neither would I, because unless the guest has a medical issue, it's just downright rude. I was told that she had to be allowed to get McDonald's because that's all she'll eat and she couldn't go hungry. I told her it simply wasn't possible. Sister-in-law then threatened not to attend the wedding if we wouldn't accommodate her daughter. I removed her from the bridal party and told them where to go. The response? So, what are you gonna do about the food? Update. The wedding hasn't happened yet, so I foresee more drama before it does, and I will update you as it does. She's been told that there is no room to move on the food and to deal with it herself. She's also been told not to sabotage it for the other junior bridesmaids, which is something I'm worried about now that she will see her daughter is actually excluded from the whole thing. I also think that the crap will hit the fan when it becomes clear that they're all still getting party favors, and I doubt they will come, and I don't think she had the intention of attending unless her daughter could be the center of attention. It really is like her daughter is the bride with all the demands. I would uninvite her myself and have been harsher earlier, but she really is my partner's only living close adult relative. He has kids, but they're children, so it's different, and it's important for him that she attends. He's been through a lot in the last couple of years, and it's important to me that I look after him and that he's happy, so I'm happy to take the burden of dealing with issues and make some sacrifices. To a point. The junior maid of honor situation was particularly appalling because if anyone would be promoted to that, it would be his daughter, not his niece. but still, WTF? I've never heard of such a thing. Sister-in-law is extremely entitled and thinks the whole world revolves around her, and I think she's teaching her daughter the same thing. There was another incident with the dresses that I had completely forgotten about. I did not want a traditional bridesmaids. I had told everyone that they could choose a dress that they really wanted, pursuant to coordinating it with me. It was appreciated that they all work together. I was also happy to pay for the outfits because I really don't like the expectation that people participate in a wedding pursuant to my requirements and have to spend their own money to do so, especially when it's an expensive wedding. I said 3 things. No navy, no shoulders, no splits. Sister-in-law, also a bridesmaid, without checking with me, went and bought herself an over-the-shoulder navy with the side splits. It clashed with my sister's dress, the actual maid of honor, and the junior bridesmaids' dresses. My mother and sisters and I spent hours and hours reorganizing the dresses to make it work, not just to match her, but because she looked like the damn maid of honor instead of my sister. We also pissed thousands of dollars up against the wall doing this. I was petrified that if I told her not to wear the dress, that she would do it just to spite me, and we decided to keep my sister's new dress private so that she couldn't get something else to upstage her again. I'm lucky because we're in a financial position to do this. We're not zillionaires, but both of us have well-paying jobs and investments, but I certainly resented it, and that is not something that is usually possible for people. I'm really tempted to just send her the bill. That's all the stories I have for today. Links to the original Reddit post will be in the description box below. Please stop on by Reddit to show the OP some love and an upvote. If you enjoy my videos, please comment, like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell notification to let you know when I upload new videos. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.